Out of all the haunted places that I've been to, there isn't many places that scare me more than the place that I'm at tonight. But that is because I have first-hand experience and knowledge of this place, having grown up a couple of streets away. The place that I'm talking about is Highlands Park. And I'm going to take you on a little journey and show you why this place is scary to me. Before I enter the park, I will tell you a little story about the woods on the right as you go in. They're rumoured to be haunted and people have heard footsteps following them. My sister and her friend many years ago both experienced being followed in the woods, and so did my good friend who was my neighbour growing up. I'm going to walk through those woods on my own tonight. I like Highlands Park in the day, but it just takes on a different character at night. We are now entering Highlands Park. Sometime in the 1980s, my sister and her best friend were followed by something in the woods here in Highlands Park. Whilst they could hear the sounds of footsteps following them, they couldn't visually see anyone to explain those footsteps. Now I'm going to take a little walk through these woods on my own and tell you some more stories about Highlands Park. Nearly fell over. Another event which happened in these woods, which I can personally vouch for, was when my then best friend and neighbour growing up was also followed in these woods. As a kid, he often fished by himself at Writtle Reservoir. This particular day, he was heading home through the woods as dusk approached when he heard someone following him. I remember him coming home in a bad state, very upset and scared. Our parents were so convinced that he had genuinely been followed that a group of us, with adults, went back to the park, half expecting to find a pervert. This reservoir where he fished is also the same reservoir where a young man had taken his own life by drowning after murdering his parents. I mentioned this in my haunted Writtle video. I can hear something over there. I haven't got a clue what that clicking sound is. Just walk away from it. That's the best decision. Just wildlife. Strange. Oh, and he nearly trips again. In my teenage years, with some friends, we used to wild camp in Highlands Park. A few of the experiences I've had personally come from those times camping. I always remember that you'd hear dogs barking in the middle of the night and at random times. That might not seem that strange, being that a park will of course have dog walkers, but these barks used to happen often throughout the night, in the early hours of the morning, and it is more curious when you learn that there are graves within Highlands Park belonging to dogs once owned by previous owners of the park. Another curious incident happened when we was wild camping, and I awoke in the middle of the night to the sounds of low flying aircraft. These were not jet sounds, they were propeller sounds, a low drone. And when you consider Highlands Park activity during both of the wars and the fact that it would have been a landmark from the sky, you can almost guarantee that planes would have flown over, and potentially even that there would have been a landing strip within the park. I just vaguely remember waking up, hearing these low flying droning sounds and being scared and just laying there and falling back to sleep. But what's more interesting is that when I mentioned it to the friends in the morning who I was camping with, one of them also heard the same thing. They also heard the sound of propeller driven planes. Something else worth mentioning is that when we used to visit Highlands Park randomly in the middle of the night to scare ourselves, we used to always visit the old gate, which is now one of the main entrances by car. And we always used to experience a coldness when you approach the gates. It could be a nice warm summer's night, and often when you went to those gates it was just colder. Around those gates there was just a coldness in the air. The gates are still there, but back then, when I'm talking, that they weren't used. They were all chained up, locked, and had been for years.
Luckily I don't need to cross that.
Those are a few stories that I personally experienced, but there are more infamous hauntings associated with Highlands House, which I will visit shortly.
There just rustled, I think, me walking past it, and it just suddenly a noise behind me. Now let's go to the house. How long's that been going for? So I am now at the beautiful, amazing Highlands house. This place has a few ghost stories attached to it. What I'll do is I'll have a little film. Of course I can't get inside, it's the middle of the night. And yeah, I'll show you Highlands house and tell you the ghost stories attached to Highlands house and some other interesting stories.
Highlands House was built circa 1730 and the estate comprised of 100 acres of parkland and 300 acres of farmland. Each subsequent owner extended the estate, which at its largest, then owned by John Atwood 1839 to 1858, comprised of 4,300 acres. In 1858, the estate was divided into 7 lots and sold on individually, with 1 lot containing Highlands House. After Mrs. Christine Hanbury's death, who owned the Highlands estate from 1922 to 1964, Chelmsford Borough Council purchased the house and estate and opened the park to the public. Highlands House is a beautiful Grade 2 listed neoclassical Georgian villa set in 574 acres of parkland. The original red brick Queen Anne style house still exists under its white facade, one of many changes made under the guidance of landscape architect Humphrey Repton in the late 19th century. In 1964, during the last phase of private ownership, there was a fire in the West Wing and Highlands House fell into partial ruin.
As you can see, it's rather substantial.
Its illustrious history accounts for 9 owners, including Chelmsford City Council and a landscape architect who put the estate on the map, 2 world wars and a restoration to its former glory. Each owner has stamped their mark on the estate, extending and remodelling according to their tastes and the fashions of the day. In 1986, restoration of the house began and the final phase was completed in 2007. The house and the grounds were called into service in World War I and used as a hospital for wounded soldiers. There are many records telling the stories of those treated and their injuries, and of course those who sadly passed away. Stories also including funerals and celebrations at the local Widford Church, which serviced those World War I soldiers. Amongst the hauntings at Highlands House, reported by staff, is a voice in the cellar telling people to get out. A Victorian man in long coat and top hat has been seen on the landing of the first floor holding a set of keys. An angry man has been reported in the library who doesn't like strangers, and a young girl in the drawing room is reported to show herself when the piano is played.
This old tree. This tree is interesting. It's a witching tree or something. Don't know where the plaque is. There's a plaque somewhere that tells you about this tree. Let's walk round this way and see if it's round here. I can hear a helicopter. I hope it's not coming to check what I'm doing. Look, it's right, it is. Because of the cameras. It's coming to check me out what I'm doing. Ain't that funny? It's the first time I've ever had that. So I'll just definitely checking me out. Just a helicopter. Just a helicopter checking me out. Definitely checking me out because obviously there's no one here in this park. I'm the only person here and there's cameras all around, so that's probably alerted someone. Yeah, they can see I've got a camera, so I'm not harming no one.
During World War II, it was again commandeered and used as a POW camp for Italian and German soldiers. Towards the end of World War II, it was used as an SAS base, and there are many stories revealing the shenanigans that they got up to. One such story tells of the time when drunken SAS soldiers managed to get a US Army Jeep through the front doors and halfway up the grand staircase. Having got the Jeep stuck halfway up the grand staircase, the then owner got rather angry, and there are reports that the next day they had to dismantle the Jeep because that was the only way that they could actually remove it from the staircase.
Well, that is Highlands House. Beautiful house.